going to go straight to our interview on Zoom. We're joined by Wanjira Maathai. She's the MD for Africa and Global Partnerships at the World Resources Institute. Wanjira, good to see you as always. And you know what? I was just thinking of this a short while ago. What your mother, the late, great Professor Wangari Maathai, used to preach just about every single day has come to pass.
Sadly, Jeff. We had hoped she was wrong on that account.
No, certainly, Wanjira. We know President William Ruto has already jetted off for Egypt, and he'll be representing not just Kenya, but the African continent. And we know how important it is to have COP on African soil because of the brunt it bears when it comes to climate change. What for you are you hoping comes out of his speech in terms of that united African voice?
Well, for Kenya, absolutely. I think President Ruto has a lot to be proud of. We have definitely, he stands high with respect to the energy agenda. I think he will take the message of renewable energy, the one that he gave us as well during his speeches in the last, and certainly what he's been writing about. So I think that the fact that renewable energy has to be the energy of the future, but that energy actually requires finance to activate it. So that's one. I think we can be extremely proud of the fact that we have a relatively green grid. And what that actually means is that President Ruto ought to call on businesses that are doing manufacturing and trying to green their value chains, that Kenya's energy is the energy of the future. And so we should see growth in businesses interested in greening their value chains.
Yeah, but Wanjira, we can't do this alone, right? As an African continent, we're going to need literally all hands on deck, right?
I'm sorry, I did not hear you. It's a bit muffled.
Sure. I said we're not going to be able to do this as a continent in Africa, right? We're going to need literally all hands on deck.
We are, absolutely. And that's what this conference is about. That's why finance is the biggest agenda on the table, because all of this will cost significant amount of finance. And the Paris Agreement makes it very clear that the biggest emitters among us, the G7, the G20, have to go put their money where their mouth is. This is what is at stake. The finance that's required to activate the adaptation agenda, to activate the loss and damage agenda, and certainly to activate the renewable energy transition.
You know, Wanjira, you mentioned loss and damage. That was the make or break issue last year at COP26. I hope you can hear me now. I wanted you to elaborate a bit more on the loss and damage issue. Okay, we seem to have lost connectivity with Wanjira, unfortunately. Am I audible now, Wanjira?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
Okay, so if we can try Jeff's mic really
What about my mic? Can you hear me, Wanjira? Wanjira,
I can hear you better, actually, Jeff.
Oh.
Okay. So, Jeff, you can ask my question.
I will ask Victoria's question, which was on...
loss and damage.
Yeah, loss and damage during COP26.
Right.
That was the main focus in COP26.
If I'm right, I hear you asking about loss and damage. Mm-hmm. The loss and damage agenda.
Yes, yes.
Well, the loss and damage agenda got a small victory today because during the day's proceedings, the biggest issue was, would it make it on the agenda in the first place? And the reason that's important is if you don't have it on the agenda, then it's not discussed. So the loss and damage agenda is on the table. It was impossible to ignore because of the things we've seen in the last few days, the floods that particularly on our own continent, a lot of people were talking about Pakistan, but Nigeria, Chad, now Zambia. So we're seeing significant extreme climate events. Then, of course, we have our drought that is extreme here in the Horn of Africa. So it's absolutely impossible to ignore, and I'm glad that the conference of parties saw it fit to make sure that it makes it on the agenda.
So Wanjira, bottom line, and you know, you've attended many conferences of a similar nature. What's not to make this yet another talk shop? You know, COP27. Okay, we'll wait to COP28, COP29, COP30. You know, what's so significant about this? Can this be a turnaround conference? Can this be the one that'll turn things around?
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you, Jack.
Oh,
it's unfortunate.
So sorry. How about now? How about now? No.
Okay, so we have to cut this conversation short with Wanjira, unfortunately, as much as it's a critical one, but we'll be following the conversations at COP27 happening now and for the rest of the week in Egypt.
Started today, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be on until the rest of the week. So, folks, stay tuned. Citizen TV will bring you the latest from Sharm el-Sheikh.